Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Well, I hope you had a great Christmas and you've finished playing with all your new trains that you got and you're ready to do some real work. Now what I've got for you today is a DCC decoder installation with sound, and it's in the smallest locomotive that I have ever really tried, in HO scale anyway, and it's really a tight installation, let me tell you. I consider it the most challenging decoder and sound installation I've ever done. So stick around and I'll give you some tips on how you can install a sound decoder with speaker and keep alive all together in a very, very small locomotive. Okay, before we get started, I want to ask you to take a second to subscribe. Click on the subscribe box right here, and when that comes up, click on the little bell right next to it and click all. Okay, so this is the locomotive that I'm going to work on today. It's a little 060 tank locomotive, saddle tank. So this is a water tank located here, and it's got the coal bunker here on the rear of the cab. So this is a British prototype owned by the Great Western Railway, and they only had a few of these. They were designed specifically for working in very tight locations such as the Plymouth docks, and but they also saw use on some of the Cornish, the mines in Cornwall, and in some of the yards. The installation techniques I'm going to show you can be used on any of these small 060, 080, 040 type locomotives. Now with this particular one, fortunately, here where the coal bunker is, there is an open area, okay? And they provided wires here for a speaker. Unfortunately, the speakers that I have don't want to fit there, but I was able to come up with this little guy here. And this is a very small speaker. I got this particular one with its enclosure from Streamline Backshop. And I'll put a link in the description for the information on this speaker. And there's two versions of it because I might use two of these. This little one right here in my right hand is the same as this one here in my left hand. It's just that the one in the left, and I'll show you this closer, has a domed enclosure, rounded enclosure, designed specifically to fit inside of steam locomotive boilers and smoke boxes. So he designed that specifically for that. And, you know, these will work fine in this installation. I've tested them already, and they will fit. I don't think that this larger one here will fit. It's a good size larger, as you can, whoops. This one in my left hand is a good size larger, as you can see, and I just am not sure it will fit, but we'll give that a try. Okay. And what else am I going to use? Well, this is a TCS KA1 Keep Alive, and fortunately, it will fit right down here in this coal bunker. Well, once I get the roof off of the cab off, we'll get it in there. The decoder that I'm going to be using for this installation is a Soundtrax Economy, and it's a UK steam version, so I'll be installing that in here in the boiler. The good thing about that is that this particular locomotive uses or this model has a coreless motor in it. And manufacturers are starting to use a lot more coreless because they are much higher efficiency than a standard skew wound motor with a metal armature core in it. The problem, though, is they're a little bit more sensitive when it comes to back EMF. What I want to do today, though, is go ahead, let's pull this apart, and I'll show you how I'm going to go about installing the decoder in it. Okay, so right down in here, there are two screws, one on each side of the coal bunker, and those have to be backed out. Okay, so there's the screws out. And let me point out, this model was produced by Davy Jones Models, which has now gone out of business. They produced this for Kernow Model Center in Cornwall, I think. And it's got some running problems, I'll be honest with you. Basically, what they did was they used gears on all of the drivers. So there's just like tons of gears in this locomotive. And as a result, It's noisy, as you would expect from something that has a ton of gears. There's probably 12 or 13 or so gears in here driving this locomotive. And you hear a lot of gear lash. It's also, you got a lot of friction and the like. I've been running it now for about 3 months on a DC powered track to try to get it broken in, and it's quieted down some and runs smoother. But it's still not 100%. I'm hoping that the back EMF controls that Soundtrax has in this decoder will help smooth this out a little bit and help overcome another problem, and that is that unlike most locomotives, steam locomotives that have wipers that pick up power off of the axles, this particular one is a split chassis type design, and it picks up power from each set of drivers on opposite sides. And it just is not the most reliable pickup method. So I'm hoping that the Keep Alive is going to smooth that performance out a lot. Okay, so let me go ahead. Now that I've got those screws out, I should be able to just get this cab off of here, if I remember how this works. Yep, so I just popped it up a little bit like that, and at that point, everything starts to come loose. You have to be very careful because the handrail stanchions can be popped off quite easily. Okay, so there's the locomotive cab assembly off, and let me set that aside. So now, like I said, we have 2 wires coming back here, and those were provided for speakers. Now, getting this out of here next requires some finesse because you lift up on the boiler itself, and at the same time, you have to give it a little bit of a twist. And there's really no good place to get a grasp. But I'm going to work on it. Little boiler came out. Now, you can see here, I'll give you a good close-up. This is this coreless motor, so you can see it's a very, very tiny motor. That looks like something that came out of an in-scale installation. Okay, I'm going to set the boiler out. Now, the boiler has a weight, metal weight casting right here. So, you know, it helps a lot with the traction. But still, it's not a big puller, that's for sure. Okay, now let's go ahead. What I have to do now is, this is the circuit board that comes with it, and it's set up to be used with a 6-pin decoder. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate all of these wires, and as you can see, there's no color breakdown. They're just red and black. So I've got to figure out which one. Obviously, this goes to the speaker here, so I can isolate that quite easily. But the rest of them, I'll have to figure out which 2 go to the motor, and then the red, this one here is for the right side of the locomotive. There's a black one right here to the left side of the locomotive. These 2 are the wires for the speaker, and then here are the 2 for the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and take my wire cutters, and we're going to start taking this apart. Because what I'm going to do is install this decoder once I take the smoke box off. So I'm going to pop that off from the inside. It uses an interesting design that they came up with. So it's got 2 little metal pieces here and 2 magnets right here. So those hold it in place. It's got this metal plate, and when you drop it into place, it automatically grabs it and holds it. Okay, so that gives me access for the decoder, and as you can see here, if I insert the decoder from the front, it's going to go all the way back, and I can tuck it in underneath of the motor right there. So it's barely going to fit, but it will fit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these wires. Okay, so I had to take a break there and do some work off camera. What I found was that because of the way that this is designed, it did not have enough room for the decoder and speaker and everything, so I had to cut out this little chunk right here. And that provides just the amount of space that I need for everything to fit in there. So that gives me room for my little speaker to sit down in here. Be able to put that right in there, and it will sit right on top of the decoder, like so. And the way I did this, I simply took a Dremel tool with a cutting disc, and working with my safety glasses on, I just cut two parallel lines through here, or slots, whatever you want to call them, and made one shallow one across the top, and then just broke it out of there using a pair of pliers, and it came right out without any problem. Okay, so it's going to cut down a little bit on the weight, but I can live with that. Okay, it doesn't have to pull much. It's only going to be doing yard work in a flat yard, so I think you can handle it. Okay, then the next thing, so now I'm able to get the decoder installed in here. You can see the decoder is sitting down here in the bottom, and I've got all of my wires all identified. So I've got two wires that will go back for the keep alive. I have the two wires for the motor, the two wires for my pickup. So that's all I need. I'm sorry. Also, these two purple wires are for the speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and let's start testing. Now, one thing I've got to find out is which direction the locomotive goes when I've got a positive feed going to one of these wires. So what I'm going to do is get my little 9-volt battery, and we'll give that a test. Okay, so I've got my red and black wires. Got the insulation off of those, and I have my little 9-volt battery with battery wires attached to it. So let's do a test real quick and see which way this sucker goes when I hook red to red and black to black. See if they followed any convention. Okay, that goes backwards. So that means the red has to be attached. The red is the positive wire, and it has to be attached to the black, and the negative wire has to go to the red. And in that configuration, it will go forward. And that's how you test. Okay, so we can start doing some wiring. Okay, so I've prepared the track power pickup wires. The red goes to the red here on the right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the ones that came from the factory. Like that. And let's take a little bit of solder here. And we've got that tinned now. Go ahead and connect that. There. And we'll do the same thing with the black wire on the other side. Okay. Okay, there it is. There. And we've got to tin the black wire. And it's right here. Okay. Okay, so now we've got track power to the decoder. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is take the two motor leads, the red and the black, and remember we have to reverse those. Okay, so I've got my orange, it's going to go to the black, and There those two are. And we want the gray to go to the red. So let me just clip that. Orange. And remove a little bit of insulation. There it is. Okay. And we'll tin those as well. And I need to cut off a couple of pieces of heat shrink tubing and get those on them before I do any soldering. Orange. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. To make this easier, I'm just going to connect these two together. Okay. That one, and now that I've tacked them, I'm going to solder them good, because once I put this together, I don't want to take it apart again. There. Okay, now I'm just going to slide the heat shrink tubing right over the top here. Shrink that in place. And we'll get another one. Okay. Okay, those wires are tacked in place. Okay, now for the keep alive, I'm going to attach the green wire to the black wire. And I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of heat shrink tubing, get ready. Okay. Now let's strip these. Okay, those are going to be the same length. Let me get these cut down here. I don't know what's going on with my voice today. It sounds like it's fading fast. Okay, now Now, let me go ahead and tin these. Oops, I haven't stripped the blue wire. Okay, there we go. Now we can tin them. Okay, now we can do the connections. I'm going to attach the green and yellow wire to the black wire. And the red wire to the blue. And we'll pull these up into place. I try to use a keep alive on all of these small steam locomotives because they do tend to have erratic pickup at times. And especially if they're on turnouts that do not have powered points or powered frogs, they can be very unpredictable and unreliable. Okay. Now, those are all ready. So that only leaves one thing, the speaker. So let me get that ready. I've pre-tinned the connections here on the speaker and also the two speaker wires. So let's go ahead and attach those. Okay, so now the speaker is ready to go. Let's see. I can get him in here. And there's the speaker in there. I think he's going to fit better this way. Okay, I've got all the wires tucked in place. I've got the speaker sitting right smack dab in front of the motor. And the first thing I have to do is get this little connector clip in the smoke box and push all these wires into there. And then we can start pushing this thing forward and hope this all fits. Well, that's a good sound. It popped into place. Okay, let me see if I can get the, I've got to install the two wires that go back in here to the coal bunker. Yep, got those. I'm going to pull them up in here good and tight. Okay, so I got it, got the cab popped back on here. It's a very delicate operation because, the cab holds the boiler in place, and it's a bit of a tension on it. So let me take and put these little screws back in place. Now, one thing I found, it's important not to over-tighten these because if you do, it tends to bind the mechanism and makes it noisier. Okay, there's the second one in place. With that, the little locomotive is back together. Let me put the reverser back into position. There. Okay. So everything's back together. Let me now go about installing our Keep Alive. There we go. Fits right in there quite nicely. Okay. So what I'm going to do is cut these off like that. And remember that the blue goes to the red and the green-yellow goes to our black wires. These are the wires on these are different. So the blue is blue. That's always the one you want to key on. The decoder has a yellow and green wire for the for the lead, and this one has a black and white wire, which is the NMRA standard. Okay, so let me go ahead and we'll strip off some wire here and start soldering. Okay, I've got the wires ready to be connected for the Keep Alive. So let's twist and solder. Red and the blue, positive, and the two black wires. Okay. Now, we'll protect them from shorts with our heat shrink tubing. Okay, that's got those done. So they can just sit right down in here. Okay, now, time for the roof to go back on. Okay, and the coal load to hide the Keep Alive. So there she is, all back together, and this is going to do the switching job on the module, and we'll take care of all the yard duties and that kind of thing. So now I'm going to crank up my computer and get Decoder Pro going, and I'm going to check this and make sure that it's working properly, and then I'll come back and we'll do a test drive. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set my microphone down in front of the locomotive so that you guys can get a listen. So we'll put it through a run-by type of thing. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you picked up some tips and feel like you can go ahead and go forward and install a decoder in just about any locomotive that comes down the pike. Bye now.